Hey everybody, Adam here with Hometown Acres. Welcome back. So I want to share with you guys a little story about how we almost let a logging company come in here and destroy our woods. So about 2 months ago, there's a logging company in the area. They signed a contract with a neighbor 2 doors down from us. And since they were in the area, they approached the next door neighbor, which would be my next door neighbor, and they got him to sign as well. So then they approached us and they said, hey, we're doing the 2 properties next door to you. Would you be interested in getting a quote on us coming in and timbering your property? So I said, sure, give me a number to think about, because I know the property was last logged in 2006, and I also know the value of having your woods timbered and properly managing it. If you don't do anything, you'll have some really nice trees, but those old mature trees are gonna be hogging up the canopy, and there's gonna be no sunlight getting down to the forest floor to allow the next generation of trees to grow vigorously. So if you're properly managing your woodlot, it is a good idea to get your property timbered every 15 to 20 years, just because, again, it helps the forest rejuvenate. And not only that, but it helps your property work for you. You know, normally you're paying property tax and all that stuff, and it's costing you money to own land. But if you've got a nice timber stand, you can actually reap some benefits from the land that you have. So the logging company has their guy come back and walk through my woods for 2 days and kind of take inventory of what we've got. And he comes back to me and says, we'd be comfortable making you an offer of $40,000 to come in and log your property. And my jaw kind of hit the floor. I mean, that's a lot of money. I didn't think we had that much back here, but it's not as good as it's cracked up to be, and I'll tell you why. Once I got the contract and read the fine print, that was taking everything 14 inches and bigger, not at breast height, but at the stump, which means at breast height, you know, 2-3 feet up off the ground, you're probably getting down to trees that are 10-12 inches, which is borderline saplings. I mean, that would almost come back here and clear cut our property. So that was the first red flag I had with this logging company. But I thought, well, maybe they don't know what I use the woods for. I'll give them another shot. So I went back to him. I said, hey, I don't want to take everything 14 inches at the stump. I said, can you give me another quote, taking a few less trees out? I said, I'm really looking more for a timber stand improvement than clear cutting the property. And he came back and he said, okay, if we do everything 20 inches in diameter at the stump, which would be about 16 inches at breast height, he said we could do about 20 grand. And I thought, you know, all right, they're already gonna be here. They're gonna be doing the neighbor's property. They come over and do ours. You'll be able to hit 3 properties all at once. It kind of makes sense. I was about ready to sign the contract and move forward with it, because I'm thinking, heck, I'm gonna have a ton of treetops back here for firewood. This is gonna be a win-win. Plus, if we timber it now, in another 20 years, we'll be able to do it again. But before I signed the contract, I said, are you gonna go back and paint trees so I know which ones are coming out and which ones are staying? And he got all hot and bothered by that. He was, we don't do that. We don't paint trees. We don't have time to do that. We just go back in and cut. And I said, well, I'm sorry, but I'm not just signing a blank check for you to come back in here and cash in on my woods. I said, who's back here to keep you honest and keep you from taking trees all the way down to 14 inches like you originally wanted to? I work a full-time job. I can't come back here and measure every tree that you guys take down and watch you. But if you come back here and paint trees, I can take a quick ride back through the woods and kind of take inventory of what's staying and what's going. Just makes me a little bit more comfortable as a landowner what my property is going to look like when you're done. But he would not go for that. So I politely said, hey, sorry, if you can't go back and paint trees, I don't want to move forward at this time. And boy, did that bother him. He slammed my garage door, stormed off. And I think that tells you a lot about the character of that guy and what his real intentions were for my woods. He didn't care about improving our timber stand here or coming back and harvesting again in another 20 years. He just wanted to make a quick buck off of our property. And here's how you avoid that. You don't work with the timber company or the logging company directly. You hire a forester. The forester will come back here, paint trees. Every tree that they paint, they'll write it down on a list, take inventory of what you have in your woods, and they'll put together a spreadsheet and they put it out for bid. And then all of the logging companies go and bid on that spreadsheet. You know, say there's 1 million board foot of lumber back here in these woods, you're gonna get the highest bidder, and you know what is coming off of your property. So I think that's the route we're gonna go. We're not turned off to logging our property altogether, but we're just gonna go a different route by hiring a forester to come out here. Now, with all of that said, my neighbor did move forward with these guys, and they came over to his property and they took everything 14 inches and bigger at the stump. So let's take a quick walk over to his property and see what his woods look like now that they're just about done. Before we head over to the neighbors, I wanted to give you guys a quick pan of what our woods looks like right now. This area is pretty heavily populated with a bunch of 16, 18, 20-inch red oak trees, just to give you something to compare to from the mess that we're gonna go see over at the neighbor's property. Well, here's what you have to look forward to if you decide to timber your property. Now, again, this doesn't scare me because this isn't as heavy as we'd cut our property. This was 14 inches and larger at the stump. We were looking at 20 to 22 inches. But what this does by cutting it this heavy is it increases the amount of time in between harvests. So the way that we plan to do it, we should be able to reharvest every 15 to 20 years. But the way they did this, it'll probably be at least 50 years before this property could be timbered again. My neighbor will never see that. You know, I will barely be able to see that. I'm 30 now. I'd be 80 years old by the time this property would be able to be timbered again. But you can see what it does here to open up this canopy. I mean, there's not much left up here. So that'll get a lot of sunlight down here and promote that next generation of growth. Now, when we do decide to harvest our property, my plan is taking that money that we get from the timber and investing in a nice piece of equipment like a mini excavator with a hydraulic thumb or something that would make it easy to come back in here and start cleaning this up. I know even a mini excavator is going to take forever to clean this up. You really need a full-size excavator, but it's still going to be a lot better than coming back in here with my grapple and my tractor, just because this ground is so uneven. And with the grapple and the tractor, you got to pull into these piles and grab them. So you've got sticks and twigs and things that are going to poke up through your brush guard and radiator grill and overheat the tractor. Whereas an excavator, you'll be able to sit back here and reach in and grab that stuff and bring it out and put it into a brush pile. Here's something else you can expect is the carnage left behind from the logging process, just skidding these trees out of here. They're going to get brushed up against trees that are left behind. And the problem with that is it reduces the value of this tree the next time you go to harvest it. It's not going to kill it, but it's definitely going to leave a scar there. Here's a good example of that scarring. You can see this original scar here is from when they harvested the property back in 2006. And here's a fresh one from 2022. Just see the damage it does to the trees. But boy, they sure did leave a lot of firewood back here. Now, if you're planning on cutting on a property that's recently been timbered, you've got to be careful, because in the contract that we ended up not signing, there was language in there that stated they've got a full year to come back here and get timber off the property. So let's say this red oak log right here, even though it looks like a treetop and it looks like they're leaving it behind, if you come back here and cut that for firewood and they came back to try to get it and it was gone, they could actually sue you for the value of that tree, because technically they purchased it from you and then you took it back. So you've got to be careful, make sure the loggers are done and you've got confirmation they aren't coming back to get anything else. All right, so we're over back on our property, and since we spent most of the morning talking about timbering your property and getting the most value out of your trees as you can, I thought we'd do a little bit of timber stand improvement here this afternoon. The problem with our property is we've got a lot of areas that are very dense with grapevines, and what grapevines do is they slither their way up the tree like this one here, and the weight of those grapevines will just try to suck that tree back down to the earth. And as you can see, the grapevines, once they get to the top or the crown of the tree, they also create their own leaves, and the leaves of the grapevines will actually shade out the leaves of the tree that they're growing up. So they're almost like a parasite. And in this case here, this tree had the potential to be a really nice lumber tree, and it just killed it before it ever got a chance to make it to harvest. So we're gonna come back here and try to cut as many grapevines as we can. And what you do here is you wanna cut them at shoulder height and then cut them again down at the ground, so you've got an idea of which ones you've cut and which ones you haven't. Now, it won't get the grapevines out of the tree like in this situation here, but what it does is it lets a lot of the water drain out of those grapevines, which reduces the weight. They will eventually wither away, decay, and die. And once they start to rot, they will slowly start to release out of the trees that they've encumbered. Tarzan would have a field day out here. But anyways, guys, I think that's gonna about wrap this one up. If any of you out there have timber available for sale, I highly recommend looking into a forester. They do charge a little bit of a commission on the timber that you sell, but it's gonna be well worth your while to have somebody in your corner getting you the highest bid and also looking out for you as the landowner for future timberings 20, 30 years down the road. Also, if you've got grapevines in your property, highly recommend getting those cut down as soon as possible to prevent further damage to any timber you do have. If you guys enjoyed this one, give me a big thumbs up. Click that subscribe button. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.